The scream came before the smoke. Elijah didn't hear it with his ears. He felt it, sharp and high and tearing through the chaos like a flare in the dark. A child's scream. Then came the roar. The duplex on Mason Street was already an inferno when Engine 4 arrived. Orange light pulsed against the night sky, smoke climbing like a question no one wanted to answer. He didn't wait. While Captain Reese barked orders near the truck, Elijah was already moving. Mask sealed. Axe in hand. He didn't think. He didn't hesitate. The second floor was still intact, barely, and someone was up there. The dispatcher's voice had said it clearly. Mother says the child's still inside. The stairs were gone. So Elijah went in through the side, found a drain pipe solid enough to hold, climbed like his life depended on it. It didn't. But someone else's did. Inside, the heat punched him in the chest. Visibility was zero. He dropped low, crawled past a crumbling dresser, past flames licking the hallway. A door was ajar. He saw the shape of a child, knees tucked, face buried, crying. Elijah scooped him up. One arm around the boy, the other gripping the axe. The floor groaned beneath them. The smoke tasted like rust and ash. The way out was through the window. No time to think. He wrapped the boy tighter, smashed the glass with his elbow, kicked the frame wide, and dropped. They hit the ground hard, not graceful, not clean, but alive. He coughed once, then twice. The air was wet with sirens and shouting. A crowd had gathered. Phones were out. And as Elijah struggled to his feet, child still clutched to his chest, the lights found him briefly. But they didn't stay. Captain Reese stepped into view, helmet off, shirt smudged just enough to look busy. He touched the child's head, then turned to the camera. Another close one, he said with a practiced smile. But that's what we do. Elijah said nothing. Just handed the child to the paramedic and stepped back into the shadow of the fire truck. By the time he got home, his uniform reeked of smoke. He peeled it off slowly, each layer heavier than the last. The apartment was dark, quiet. He sat at the kitchen table with a glass of water and turned on the local news. They showed the fire. They showed the boy. They showed Reese. Elijah King wasn't mentioned once. He didn't slam the glass. He didn't throw the remote. He just sat there, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the screen. The silence felt louder than the flames. The next morning at the station smelled like burnt coffee and fresh flies. Elijah walked in early, like always. Boots shined. Shirt pressed. No one greeted him. No one had to. The silence said everything. Reese was already holding court near the lockers, replaying last night's fire with the easy swagger of someone who hadn't earned the glory but knew how to wear it anyway. Could feel the heat from the sidewalk, he was saying. Knew we had to act fast. That's what experience does. Laughter rippled through the group. Elijah set his gear down quietly. No one looked his way until Reese's eyes found his, and for half a second, they locked. Elijah gave a small nod. Just enough. Reese smiled, slow and dry. Mornin', King. Elijah nodded again. Morning, Captain. He didn't expect thanks. Not really. But when Reese added, next time, let's make sure the cameras catch the whole team. Yeah? Elijah knew exactly what game they were playing. The truth didn't matter here. Only the narrative. He changed in silence, fingers stiff as they zipped the jacket. It wasn't just about a name left off a news report. It was about erasure, quiet, polished, routine. The kind you couldn't prove without looking bitter. The kind that wore your spirit down one missing sentence at a time. Later, during equipment checks, Chief Whitaker called him into the office. The door closed behind him with a click that felt too final. Everything good? The chief asked without looking up. Yes, sir, Elijah said. He waited. The room smelled like dust and old decisions. You did good work last night, Whitaker said after a beat. Still not meeting Elijah's eyes. Thank you, Chief. But listen, Whitaker finally looked up. I heard some chatter. You feeling slighted? About the coverage? Elijah's throat tightened. I noticed the report wasn't entirely accurate. Whitaker exhaled. Son, you've been around long enough to know how this place works. We don't split hairs over heroics. It's a team. What matters is the kid made it out alive. Yes, sir. But nothing, Whitaker cut in. His voice wasn't angry, just tired. You start chasing credit, you stop being a firefighter and start being a problem. And that's not what you want to be here, is it? Elijah stared at him. No, sir. Good man. Whitaker stood, ending the conversation. Get some rest before your next shift. Elijah walked out slower than he walked in. Back in the bay, Reese was joking again, louder now, a little looser, like the wind had already been written into the department's history books. Elijah stood near the engine, hands on the chrome, watching his own reflection warp in the metal. The air felt thick, not with smoke this time, but with something heavier. He was used to the unspoken rules. Smile, work hard, don't make waves. But something was cracking inside him now. Something old and patient. Something that had stayed quiet for too long. It started with a glitchy video and a 15-second caption. Elijah was eating lunch alone in the break room, tuna sandwich, apple slices, no appetite, when his phone buzzed. A message from an old friend he hadn't spoken to in years. Just a link and 3 words. This you, bro? He tapped it. The video opened with the sound of sirens and crackling flames. Shot from a shaky phone, the angle caught the burning duplex from across the street. For a moment, nothing, just smoke, red lights, chaos. Then, a firefighter burst from the side of the house, coughing, cradling a child against his chest. Helmet tilted just enough to catch the face. Elijah. No mistaking it. No room for debate. The footage was raw, blurry, and undeniable. He watched it twice. Then a third time. Then the caption. Worthington hero saves kid from blaze, not the one the news showed. Truth matters. It already had a few hundred likes. A couple of shares. A slow flame, but flame nonetheless. Elijah stared at the screen, phone resting on the table like it might bite. He didn't know who filmed it. Didn't care. What mattered was that the lie had a crack now. A small one. Just enough for light to slip through. He thought about deleting the message. Closing the window. Letting it die. Instead, he watched again. That afternoon, one of the rookies approached him near the bay. The kid looked nervous, holding a wrench like a shield. Hey. Just wanted to say that video going around? That was badass, man. Elijah blinked. Thanks. People are starting to notice, the rookie added. Then, quieter, they should have given you the credit, man. Everyone here knows it was you. Elijah said nothing. Just nodded once and went back to checking hoses. Later that night, his sister called. Eli, you didn't tell me it was you in that fire. He sighed. It's complicated. Not to me, it's not, she said. That's your face on that video. You saved it, child. Why isn't your name in the story? He didn't answer. You know what Mom would say, she added. He did. He could hear it in her voice. Don't shrink to fit the lie. Stand in your truth, even if your voice shakes. The next day, a reporter from Birmingham reached out. A woman named Corinne Tate. Said she saw the footage. Said she wanted to hear Elijah's side. He didn't answer right away. Just sat in his truck after shift, engine off, phone glowing in his lap. The world felt tilted. Like everything was the same, but also not. He could ignore her. Let it pass. Do the job, keep his head down, survive the silence. Or he could speak. He tapped the screen once. Typed a reply. Let's talk. The first blow didn't come from outside. It came from the locker room. Elijah walked in just after 6 a.m., expecting the usual. But something in the air was different. Quieter. He passed Reese and 2 others near the coffee machine. No one said a word. Just tight nods and eyes that slid off him like oil on water. He opened his locker and froze. A photo, a printed still from the viral video, had been taped to the inside of the door. Someone had scribbled across it in red marker. Starring Captain Affirmative Action. Elijah stared at it for a long time. Not shocked. Just tired. He peeled it off slowly and folded it once, then again, until it disappeared into his pocket. By the time morning drills started, the whispers had already begun. Conversations ended when he walked in. Tools got passed to everyone but him. It was subtle, precise. The kind of cold shoulder you couldn't report without sounding paranoid. At lunch, Reese sat across from him. You're really gonna ride this out, huh? He said, voice low. Elijah didn't look up from his sandwich. Just told the truth. Yeah, well, sometimes the truth burns the wrong people. Reese leaned back. You think this department's gonna change just because a few folks online saw you playing hero? Elijah met his gaze. Calm. Steady. Not playing. Reese smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. People are starting to talk. Higher-ups. Sponsors. Town council. You making us all look like fools. No, Elijah said, voice flat. You did that when you took the credit. Reese stood slowly. Careful, King. You keep this up, you won't just be the first. You'll be the last. That afternoon, Chief Whitaker called him in again. No small talk this time. You really want to push this narrative? The chief asked, arms crossed. You really want to make this about race? Elijah didn't flinch. I didn't make it about anything. I told the truth. Whitaker's jaw twitched. You think people around here care who ran into the fire first? You think the town wants to read about victimhood? About race politics? I think, Elijah said quietly, they deserve the truth. And so do I. Whitaker exhaled slowly, like disappointment was a burden he carried often. We're a small department. You want to be part of it. You learn when to speak and when to shut up. Elijah stood. Maybe that's the problem. As he left the office, he could feel it, the shift. The invisible line he had just stepped over. The one you weren't supposed to cross if you wanted to survive here. Later that night, he sat in his truck in the empty station lot. Rain tapped softly against the windshield. His phone buzzed with messages, some supportive, others venomous. The video had passed 10,000 views. The article had gone live. His name was finally out there, attached to the truth. But it didn't feel like a victory. Not yet. It felt like a match struck too close to the gas line. It was the locker room that broke him first. Not the fire. Not the silence. Not even the lie. It was the moment he reached into his locker and found his gear soaked. Hose water. Ice cold. Deliberate. His boots were filled with it. His jacket was dripping. A thin layer of white powder, drywall dust, maybe flour, had been scattered over the helmet. He didn't react. Not visibly. He took a towel, wiped each piece slowly. Dried the inside of the boots. Hung the jacket near the wall heater. Not a word. Not a curse. Just motions controlled, mechanical, tired. The others watched. Some amused. Some uneasy. No one said a thing. That was how it worked here. The real discipline wasn't in the job. It was in the silence. He changed into spare gear and went about his shift like nothing had happened. But the weight followed him, into the engine, into the drill yard, into the break room where even the coffee pot had been moved to a shelf out of his reach. It was small things. Petty things. But they added up. The town's Facebook group had exploded since the article. Half the comments praised Elijah, called him a hero. The other half? Accused him of playing the race card, of dividing the department, of milking the moment. Some of the most vicious comments came from burner accounts that used words like, you people. He didn't read them anymore. But he knew his colleagues did. A week after the video dropped, someone spray-painted Pride Before Fall on the back wall of the station. Whitaker ordered it painted over by lunch, not because he was furious, but because reporters might come by. HR said they'd investigate. No one asked Elijah if he was okay. He avoided his sister's calls. He didn't want to lie to her. Didn't want to say, I'm fine, when he felt like a stranger in his own boots. At night, he lay on the couch fully dressed, watching the glow from the news crawl across the ceiling. The department had issued a formal statement. We are proud of all our firefighters. Credit is shared across the team. There is no place for division in our ranks. No apology. No correction. Just more smoke. He didn't cry. He hadn't in years. But he felt the weight behind his eyes like a dam, old pressure, old pain. This wasn't about being forgotten. It was about being erased. The phone buzzed again. Corinne, the reporter. She'd followed up 3 times, asking if he wanted to go public with more details. More names. More receipts. He hadn't answered yet. Because once you start pulling threads, you have to be ready to unravel the whole damn thing. He stared at the screen, then opened the recorder app. His voice came out low. Steady. Almost a whisper. I joined to fight fire, not fiction. But I won't burn quiet. He hit save. Then finally hit send. The interview wasn't in a studio. It was in Elijah's truck. Engine off. Windows down. A cracked coffee cup in the holder, and Corinne Tate in the passenger seat with a small voice recorder balanced on her knee. She didn't wear a blazer. Just jeans and a flannel, her notepad dotted with names and smoke-smudged truths. Elijah didn't give her drama. He gave her facts. He didn't say Reese stole the credit. He said Reese wasn't there. He didn't say Whitaker threatened him. He said the silence was loud. He didn't shout. He didn't accuse. He just spoke. About the lockers. About the photos. About the way a man can serve with honor and still be treated like a guest in his own firehouse. About being the first. And how the first is always expected to be the quietest. Corinne listened like it mattered. Like it wasn't just a story, but a record. You want to name names? She asked at the end. Elijah shook his head. They already know who they are. She nodded. No pushback. You sure about this? She asked. Once it's out there, it won't go back in. He looked out at the lot. The red brick station beyond the chain-link fence. The department patch on the sleeve of his jacket. I'm not looking for revenge, he said. I'm just done pretending. The article went live 2 days later. The fire beneath the uniform. One firefighter's fight against erasure. With video stills. With timelines. With quotes. No sensationalism. Just heat. Truth. It didn't take long. The story exploded. Twitter. Reddit. A local radio host called him a real American. A national morning show sent an inquiry. Black firefighter unions reached out. Civil rights organizations posted statements. Reese stopped talking to him entirely. Half the station followed suit. But just two, pulled him aside when no one was looking. One said, "We knew. We just didn't know how to say anything." The other took guts, man. Respect. It wasn't loud support, but it was real. The department issued a second statement, more defensive this time. Whitaker scheduled bias training. HR opened a formal inquiry into team cohesion. But Elijah didn't care about policy anymore. He cared about presence. About being seen. About standing in a fire you didn't light and not letting it consume who you are. It came not with a bang, but with a knock. Whitaker didn't summon him over the intercom. Didn't send a message through HR. He showed up at Elijah's apartment door just after 7, hat in hand, like a man visiting an old friend he hadn't spoken to in years. Elijah opened the door, unsure what to expect. He let the chief in anyway. Whitaker didn't sit. He stood in the middle of the small living room, eyes scanning the room like he was looking for something to hold on to. "I read the article," he said finally. Elijah didn't respond. "I didn't think it'd go this far," the chief continued. "Didn't think you'd escalate it." Elijah leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "I didn't escalate anything. I told the truth." Whitaker nodded once, slow. "That truth is causing a lot of noise. Town council's asking questions. State board too. So fix it." "I'm trying," Whitaker said, and for a moment, his voice softened. "Look, I'm not here to argue. I'm here to offer something." He pulled a folded envelope from his coat pocket. "Lieutenant. Full promotion. Pay bump. Your own crew." Elijah didn't take it. "You want me to take a promotion to keep quiet?" "I want you to stay," Whitaker said. "But I can't have this department turn into a headline factory." "You want recognition? Fine. You've got it. You want leadership? Earn it from the inside." Elijah studied him. Saw the cracks. Not guilt, survival. A man not trying to make it right, but make it manageable. He let the silence stretch. Then, I was never asking for favors. Just honesty." Whitaker's eyes dropped. Sometimes honesty costs more than departments can pay. Maybe that's why they keep burning down. The chief left the envelope on the table and walked out without another word. Elijah didn't open it. That week, the department held a vote on disciplinary reform. Mandatory training. Anonymous reporting. A new code of conduct. It barely passed. Reese voted no. So did half the senior crew. But a few surprised him. A rookie. A veteran. One of the women from the paramedic team who'd once told him she didn't do politics. Something was shifting. Not fast. Not clean. But real. Later, in the bay, a young firefighter approached him. "I read your story," she said. "Made me stay." Stay. Was thinking of quitting. Thought maybe this place wasn't for people like me. "But you," she hesitated. "You lit a path." Elijah didn't smile. He just nodded. The fire was spreading. But for once, he wasn't afraid of what it would burn. The call came just after midnight. School building. Renovation site. Old wiring. Maybe a tossed cigarette. Flames already visible through the gymnasium roof by the time engine 4 pulled up. Elijah stood at the front of the crew, helmet low, gear strapped tight. No one questioned it. No second looks. Not tonight. Reese wasn't there. On leave. Stress leave, the whispers said. Chief Whitaker had stayed back too, citing paperwork. That left Elijah in charge. He didn't hesitate. He issued orders with the clarity of someone who had waited his whole life for the noise to stop so the truth could speak. He split the team, 2 on ventilation, 1 on pump, 1 with him through the west entry. The fire snapped and coiled in the windows like it recognized him. Inside, the air was thick, vision gone. But he moved fast, controlled. The old hardwood beneath him creaked and groaned. He found a trapped worker near the stairwell, pinned under a fallen beam. The man was coughing, eyes wild, leg twisted. Elijah knelt beside him. You with me? A nod. You're getting out. He called for backboard, guided the team through extraction. Every move methodical, every choice clear. When they burst into open air again, the crew was ready. Medics swarmed. The worker's hand gripped Elijah's sleeve until they loaded him onto the gurney. You saved me, the man rasped, voice cracked by smoke. Elijah didn't answer, just nodded once and turned back toward the heat. The next day, the photo made the front page. Lieutenant Elijah King leads heroic rescue in school fire. This time, his name was printed bold. His face wasn't a blur in the background. The article used words like leadership, courage, and first to enter. But Elijah didn't clip it, didn't frame it. He left the paper on his kitchen table and went back to polishing his boots. Later, at the grocery store, a woman approached. Not local, maybe passing through. Her son tugged at her hand, pointing. That's him, the boy whispered. The woman hesitated, then offered a quiet smile. Thank you. Elijah nodded, not stopping. That evening, at the station, the crew sat quiet around the break room table. No teasing, no silence, just a strange kind of calm. A rookie passed him a coffee. Good job last night, she said. He accepted it. The fire didn't care what uniform he wore, didn't care what the department said, didn't lie about who ran in first or who carried who out. It told the truth. Every time. And this time, finally, they couldn't look away.